Today, we're kicking off Sorghum Harvest Updates, powered by the Kansas Grain Sorghum Commission. I'm Maddie Meyer, Director of Communications here at Kansas Sorghum, and today I'm visiting with Max Tjaden, our District 6 Commissioner from Clearwater, Kansas. Max, thanks for joining me, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
All right, thanks. And to start off, could you briefly introduce yourself, your farm, and how long you've been raising sorghum?
Well, I farm here at Clearwater, and I can remember sorghum being on our farm ever since I was a little kid. My dad grew it because we fed cattle, and so that was our cattle feed, and I've been growing it ever since.
Oh, very good. And just curious, how is this year's harvest progressing, and are you seeing any notable differences compared to previous seasons?
Well, the season this year is there's actually a lot of milo out there compared to the last several years, and so that's been a real plus. It's all standing great. I got my copper cutter arrow header running, but I just pretty much set it at a certain height and just go. And, so it's been that part's been really nice. Probably my biggest challenge is we go to a field and then it rains before it even hardly gets started, and we got to go to another one. That's been kind of a challenge, and then the other challenge is one of the co-ops I use, they don't have any more room for milo, so I'm having to use the closer one, and they need to close at 5 o'clock. So I haven't been able to really get a really big day of cutting in this week.
Any guesses on how yields are looking?
Well, I've had one field, the first field we cut made 78, which I thought it'd do a little better than that. But we had some sugarcane aphids show up and headworms both, and I think that field had a little more sugarcane aphid pressure compared to the other ones I've cut in. And there were some spots I thought, boy, that really whacked it there. But other than that, there was headworms. We got on it pretty quick, and I really haven't seen any. It really hasn't shown up in the samples, crummy kernels or anything like that. So that's gone well. But other than that, it's just been kind of wet, and you don't get as much done in a day as you'd like to. So. But I'm thinking here where we're cutting now, I'm estimating about 85 bushel an acre, so it might do a little better. So
sure. You know, speaking of extra moisture, I'm really curious to hear your take on how the growing season went. Back over the summer, you had spoke with Kansas Farmer in a video interview where you mentioned that you had 25 inches of rainfall by the end of May, and then of course you've been stuck trying to avoid the mud and everything with rain this week. And how did that impact this year's crop?
Right. Well, probably my reference point is at the farm, and from the rain Monday night and Tuesday morning, I've hit 45.1 inches of rain since May 24th. So we've definitely not had a moisture shortage around here. So, and which in some places, well, this field here, there's some spots where there isn't any milo just because it was so wet.
Absolutely. And you mentioned to me earlier that you farm in both Sedgwick and Sumner counties, and we were just talking about yield a moment ago. Was there a specific field or varieties that you find that are performing particularly well this year in either location?
Well, I've got a Pioneer number 85P58 that I'm cutting right now. I mean, it's looked good all summer, and it's standing really good. That's been a nice one. I planted the oldie 25-24, and I've got a lot of compliments on it. It has stood really fabulous. The sugarcane aphids showed up, and I went by one day and found them, and went back several days later and couldn't find any. I don't know if that had anything to do with the variety or Mother Nature, but those two have looked really, really well. So.
Going back to, mitigating those challenges, whether that's sugarcane aphid or, headworms or anything like that, were you able to implement any new management practices or strategies this season? And then especially, when you're taking into account that extra rain, just kind of curious, how'd you navigate all that?
Well, as far as the extra rain part, no. I decided this year, I had some acres last year. I couldn't get all my wheat planted and on soybean acres, so I planted milo on those fields. And one of them, it's actually the field I'm in right now, I did a soil test. Sent the soil test in, and of course you put your year goal, and I thought, it might make 80 bushel. And basically the soil test, you don't need any fertility at all. But I still put 30 pounds of nitrogen on, and so that was kind of a surprise there. But other than that, nothing that I really haven't done before. So I just put on less this year than I would have normally. So, which is nice because it was pretty expensive. So,
well, very good. Max, that's all about the time we have today, but I wanted to thank you again for joining me. And that was Max Tjaden, District 6 Commissioner for the Kansas Grain Sorghum Commission. And I'm Maddie Meyer, and this has been a Kansas Sorghum Harvest Update.